Hey, Pastor Tommy here, and today I have three things to talk to you about. I have an update, I have a testimony, and I have a teaser. What is the update? Well, the update has to do with public worship and whether or not we're going to do it or when we're going to do it. It's been about 6 or 7 months now, and some of you have written and been pretty adamant that you want to meet publicly, and we as a session have been talking and for months, of course, and now we're at a point where we're beginning to actually plan to launch public worship services. Now, before you get too excited about that, let me read to you what's required even before you can step through the door. And so this is from the Washington State Plan for Religious Services, and this is point 1 of about 15. And so I'm going to read fast just sort of to make the point. Prior to beginning operations as described in this document, all religious and faith-based organizations are required to develop for each location a comprehensive COVID-19 exposure control, mitigation, and recovery plan. The plan must include policies regarding the following control measures: PPE utilization, on-location physical distancing, hygiene, sanitation, symptom monitoring, incident reporting, location disinfectant procedures, COVID-19 safety training, exposure to response procedures, and a post-exposure incident project-wide recovery plan. A copy of the plan must be available at the location for inspection by state and local authorities, but state and local authorities do not pre-approve the plan. Failure to meet planning requirements may result in sanctions, including the location being shut down. So in other words, not only do we have to have written plans for all those things, but of course, those things like PPE protection and sanitation and all these things have to actually be in place. Now, are we going to be perfect when we do it? Probably not. But is it really a chore? Absolutely. Samuel's working on it specifically, and he has a field captain from our congregation, someone who's very organizationally gifted, to start working on that. And so just so you know, we're working on that. And when is it going to sort of launch? I'm not sure. I can't make any promises because a lot of it depends on what we need to get in place. Now, some of you are thinking, we just need to stick it to the man, and we need to fight the government. And I'm disappointed that you're not standing up for a First Amendment. Well, here's the thing. I've learned in 54 years that you got to pick your fights wisely. And so is sticking it to the man and sticking it to the governor and fighting for a First Amendment the fight that we want to fight right now, given the fact that even when we launch and do all these things, less than half of our congregation will be able to meet together anyway. Right? The number is 200 or 25% of your capacity, or whichever is smaller. So for us, that's 150, assuming everyone shows up. And statistically speaking, the best, most populated churches right now are having about 25% of their people show up. So are we pecking away at it? Absolutely. Now, here's the thing. Let me give you a testimony, because this ties in to our meeting together. We as a session decided that in lieu of just going all out for public worship and only serving a small percentage of our congregation, that we would begin to raise up home group leaders and to start home groups. And this past weekend, we launched home groups. And I was super encouraged by the fact that 50 people on the first weekend that we actually sort of officially did this, 50 people participated. That's great. That's like 20% of our congregation. Now, what is my testimony? My testimony is this: Judy and I hosted a home group. We had a family, a couple with 2 kids, and a single guy. And we basically got together, and it was pretty simple, right? They came over to our house about 9:45, and we sang a hymn, and then we went downstairs in our house and watched the sermon, and which is a little bit awkward watching yourself with other people, but nonetheless, we watched the sermon, and then after the sermon, we sort of came upstairs again, and we sang another hymn, and then we had breakfast together. And as we sat around our dining room table, we basically just checked in. How is everyone doing? And as we went around the table, what was interesting is that every single person there had some kind of struggles that was very specific to COVID-19 and being locked down. I mean, everyone, whether it was a dad who was trying to figure out how to work at home, or a mom talking about homeschooling and sort of not being that jazzed about it in the context of COVID, that kind of stuff. Every person had some issue or some major thing, including me, right? I lost it on Saturday, I'll be honest with you, because between the pandemic lockdowns and then the fires, and I couldn't go out and I couldn't install this Binford 9000 table saw motor that I just couldn't do what I wanted to do. I was struggling. And yet, as I sat around and listened to everyone else's struggles, I was very encouraged. Now, why was I encouraged? I was encouraged not because I rejoice in their suffering. I rejoiced because I realized that I wasn't alone in mine. In other words, in the context of this pandemic, it's really easy to feel like I'm isolated and I'm alone and no one knows what I'm going through, and you just sort of, it bubbles up and you want to lose it, speaking for myself. But to actually meet with people outside of my household and to hear the fact that they struggle, it put my struggles into context. It helped me understand that I'm not the only one, but it also, of course, we prayed for each other and we fellowshiped together and we ate together. And honestly, I can't wait until next Sunday, not just because I want to hear an awesome sermon, LOL, but because I get to meet again with these folks and see how they're doing and see how the prayers, were they effective or not, and how are we growing together. So with all of that said, if you have not signed up for a home group at New Hope, please click the link in the description below and sign up. We will get you connected one way or the other. You need to do that. And my guess is if you begin to do that, you're going to see that just going to public worship isn't enough for you. You see what's happening in our home groups? That kind of stuff doesn't happen in public worship. Now, some of you are afraid to go to home groups. I get that. Some of you are afraid to go to public worship. That's why as we move forward, just like a church plant, we're going to have to do everything at the same time, and that takes time. So with all of that said, let me give you just a quick teaser. This weekend we'll be looking at the book of Exodus, specifically Exodus 3 through 13, and very specifically the Exodus. In other words, we'll give a brief overview of the life of Moses, but then we're going to talk about Israel's release from Egypt and the Passover, and I'm super excited about it. I think the title of the sermon in the Jesus Storybook Bible is God Comes to the Rescue. So tell your friends about it, share this link, share the sermon, subscribe, all the things you're supposed to do. And I look forward to seeing you this weekend. God bless you. Amen.